Since the beginning of October, our church security threat level system has been at its highest level, which is red, also known as severe or imminent risk of attack. We went there because of a number of issues, and some of those issues included ISIS's call to attack Christian churches and Jewish synagogues in the United States, the leader of the FBI telling Congress that churches and synagogues were at a very high risk, his words, of attack in the United States, and then several arrests of people that had planned attacks at churches and synagogues around the United States. All were interrupted. When we raised the alert level system, we told you that we were going to reevaluate where we were going to be with our threat level for churches in the United States on November 6th. That's today. Now, it's important to note that the threat level of severe or imminent risk of attack is going to continue until January 21st. We have more information to add to what we've already put out. Some of it has been publicized. A lot of it has not. Now, a lot of you ask where I get my information from. I get it from firsthand sources. So I treat this as if I was putting out an intelligence assessment to law enforcement where my sources have to be reliable. What is a reliable source? It is somebody with firsthand knowledge. I get lots of information, some of it from you guys, where they hear it firsthand from somebody that would know, and then they relay it to me. I have to talk to that person and I have to basically know them and prove that they are who they are. As for this current threat level, I have talked to people that are currently investigating terrorism issues in the United States. And I've talked to people in the National Guard that are being deployed right now that have the know. Many of these people, you want to ask, why would they give me this information? Because they know I'm talking to you and they are prohibited from talking. And so therefore they're letting me know. Now for the FBI agent that's watching me, I can read your affidavit now in my mind of, you're saying you're writing that affidavit in a way so you can come justify a search of my house. Just know I am the press. I am considered the press and should be treated as such. And just make sure you have all your stuff together because I will hold you to task when you go to court. Remember, I teach people like you, FBI, how to conduct thorough investigations. That would not be a thorough investigation if you showed up at my house one day. Let's talk about specifics. There are many people that are upset about President Trump being elected yesterday. Not only that, conservatives won the Senate and it looks like they're going to win Congress. So that gives Republicans a supermajority. That is going to make far left people unhappy. And I'm already seeing them on social media platforms starting to organize and starting to try to get protests going. I do think that a majority of what they're talking about attacking is not specifically churches, but we cannot rule out that churches are going to be that specific target. If you are a church that has a very public face about conservative values, a good example would be the Catholic Church and their stance on abortion. They will be targets before other venues are targets, or when we talk about churches. Besides what Antifa and others are saying on social media, we also have a number of states that have activated their National Guard units. Now, this is an expensive venture. It's not cheap, and they don't initiate their National Guard units unless they have some type of intelligence. So far, 10 states have publicly activated their National Guard units, with many other states having their people on standby. I have personally talked to people in different Guard units that have told me that they are activated for potential riots in their states, and their state has not publicly admitted that they have activated those units. I have also talked to special operations people that are in the Guard, because the Guard, if you guys don't know, the Guard is an extension of the Army, and they do have special operations forces, including special forces in the Army. And then also on the Air Guard side, you have combat controllers, PJs, recon, and so on. Those people can be activated by the state. I think it's Title 32, and it allows them to work with law enforcement without violating posse comitatus. It does concern me that they have activated some special operations units. That is not to be taken lightly, and we should look at that and take that into context on where we should be with that church security threat level system. We also have some international developments. The Ayatollah in Iran has said that they're going to strike at Israel and the United States for a recent attack by Israel on Iran. Now, they also said that they were going to attack Israel before the election, and they have not done that. I am sure that they are reevaluating what they're doing, because the Republicans are going to stand stronger against Iran than the Democrats have, especially when Biden had Iranian supporters in the White House. So I'm sure they might be reevaluating that. But if somebody tells you they're going to do something, then you should listen. Now, it's not just the Ayatollah coming out and saying that he's going to attack the United States and Iran. Now, when he said that, I kind of took it more as he was going to attack troops in the Middle East, but you can't discount here. If you remember, I did an interview with a Joint Terrorism Task Force agent. Now, we hid his identity and his voice so that nobody can come after him. And he specifically investigated Hezbollah. He told us that he thought there were at least 30,000 Hezbollah agents in the United States right now. I've talked to other JTTF officials, infusion center officials, who have told me that they suspect that as well. I talked to another JTTF agent who told me he has also interviewed Hezbollah and Iranian agents here in the United States after their arrests. And all of the agents have told me the same thing, that the Hezbollah and the Iranian agents told them that they would be activated to attack targets in the United States if their Hezbollah leader, Nasrallah, was assassinated. He was assassinated by Israel back in September. The one other thing that will cause them to be activated is a war between Iran and the United States. Now, look, with Nasrallah dead, that means that there's only one other reason why Hezbollah would be activated in the United States. We don't know when that's going to happen, but you don't put 30,000 agents into the country without having some type of a plan. Now, I'm just not some guy on the internet spouting this stuff off. I've left you, if you go over to christianwarriortraining.com, I've cited my sources. You can see the videos of some of the people I've interviewed, and you can see where the information is coming from. You can choose not to listen. That's up to you. But many of the JTTF agents that I've spoken to have told me that they fear that an October 7th type attack, like what Hamas did upon Israel back on October 7th, they're afraid that that same thing is going to happen here in the United States, but on a level that's going to make 9/11 look like a kindergarten party. We should heed their warnings and listen to what they have to say. Now, just like everything we do here at Christian Warrior Training, we will tell you the problems that are presented, but we're going to deliver you the bad news, but we're going to give you the good news, and we're going to tell you what you can do to protect your church to make sure that you don't become victim. Now, if you didn't look yesterday, I put up a video. It was the 7th anniversary of the worst massacre at a church in the United States, where over 20 people were killed in the church. I talked about that incident, and I give you tips about what could have prevented that mass murder from happening in the first place. Go back and take a look at it. It is an underperforming video. I've only got like 4,000 views on it or something. It should really have more because it teaches you how to avoid an active shooter incident. So listen, when you get done with this, go back and listen to that video. Let's talk about those security recommendations. All right. First and foremost, don't turn your church into a bunker. We have to have our churches open and welcoming so that new followers of Christ can come worship and learn about Christ. A lot of people will sit in the parking lot and be afraid to come in. It's like people on January 1st, when they go to the gym for the first time, they sit in their car and they're trying to work up the courage to go inside. And I think we've all been there at some point in our lives. They will sit in the church parking lot afraid to come in. And if they see a bunch of armed security standing out front doing bag checks, they're not going to come in. And can you imagine if somebody does not attain their salvation because of something that we did? I don't want that on my conscience. You are just going to have to work a little bit harder. What are you going to do to be a little bit harder? Make sure that you have a person at every entry point to your church. Do they have to be armed? No, they don't. Do I want them to be armed? Yeah, I think that would be better. Conceal carry, hidden, not open carry, unless you're in some type of a uniform, like a security uniform that, you're visible security, then that's okay. But conceal carry, look like a greeter. As people walk up, just say, hey, welcome to the church. Come on in. Can I help you? That's what I act as a greeter all the time. Just make sure that you don't have an open door with nobody monitoring it. It does not count that you have video surveillance. That doesn't count because they can't immediately stop somebody from coming in. One of the things that I do at Christian Warrior Training is I profile attacks that happen at churches. And one of the common themes is the problem could have been stopped, and a majority of the time, not all the time, but a majority of the time could have been stopped at the front door. You could have seen a guy walking up with an AR-15 from the parking lot, and you could have had time to either shoot that person and stop it, or if you're not armed, run inside, get everybody inside, lock and barricade the doors, call 911, and then keep that person from coming in the first place. I went back and looked at all the active shooters in America. I can't find one where the shooter broke open an interior locked door. Now, there is one case, the Covenant shooter in Tennessee, where they shot through glass and then walked through. But when it comes to an interior door or any kind of a wood door, like a solid door. They haven't gone through that. So just something to think about. The other thing is you can keep the increased number of security in your church. The people that are off duty, that aren't working security inside, can take care of the inside security in the worship center so that the people that are on duty can worry about the outside. The other thing you need to do is work with your local law enforcement. Go talk to your sheriff or your chief of police, tell them your concerns and ask them to come through. We've done that before many times and we see them come through. I love it. As a cop, I routinely on Sundays would drive through the churches. I knew what time their services started, and I would drive through, and I would try not to get tied up with conversation because I wanted to hit as many churches as possible, but I drove through flying the flag. Flying the flag just means driving through where everybody sees a police come through. If there's any potential attacker that was thinking about attacking, they're not going to if a police car is there. You also might want to talk to your congregants, depending on the size of your church and how you feel about this. I think it's important to involve your congregants. One of the things that we do is we do a concealed carrier meeting every year where we bring everybody together and we tell them what we want them as security to do if there's an active shooter. We tell them what we want them to do, what their expectations are, and we tell them basically stay out of our way. We're going to go deal with it. You just worry about immediate threat, which is right in front of you. We talk about how to identify us. We all see each other. We all know each other. We all know our roles and responsibilities. You should be doing the same thing. You should be talking about how would we evacuate this? How would we lock down the children? Parents, don't worry about your kids. We've got your kids. We will reunite you and then practice a reunification later on after an incident. The thing I want to end with, after we talk about all this heightened vigilance and all these things that we need to do to protect our church, is I want you to remember that God is sovereign over all circumstances. We encourage our churches to stay open and accessible, especially when so many people right now are seeking spiritual guidance when things are so uncertain. As we work to protect our communities, we lean on God's promise in Psalm 91, verses 1 and 2. Whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. With God's guidance, we're going to provide a safe space for people to worship. We have to trust in His protection, and we have to remain unwavering in our purpose and welcome for all who seek His peace. Two things I want you to do when we leave here today. So I want you to pray for our country, pray for our politicians, even the ones that lost yesterday. Pray for all of them. Pray that they have good discernment and that they remember their place, which is to represent the people and not themselves. Pray for your church. Pray for your pastors, for their protection and to uplift them so they can help us. I want you to pray for your family and yourselves. And the last thing I want you to do after all of that is to remember your ABCs. Always be caring.